Ravi was tired. More than tired, he was broken. Every step felt heavier than the last. Every morning, he woke up with a weight on his chest. For years, he had given everything he had to build a life for his family. A small shop, a home that was never perfect, but full of love, and long hours spent working just to make ends meet. He didn't dream of riches. He only wanted stability, safety, a future for his son. But life wasn't kind. The shop that once brought in enough to feed the family now barely paid the rent. Customers had stopped coming. Debts had piled up. The landlord had given him a final warning. If he didn't pay by the end of the month, he would have to leave. He tried to hide it, but the stress showed in his eyes. His smile had faded. He spoke less at home. He no longer laughed the way he used to. Even food lost its taste. His wife noticed. She stayed strong, but he could see the fear behind her quiet words. Their son, Arav, was only 8 years old, but even he had started asking questions. "Papa, why don't you come to the park anymore? Papa, why do you look so tired?" One night, after everyone had gone to bed, Ravi sat alone in the small kitchen. A single bulb flickered above him. His hands trembled as he counted the little money he had left. It wasn't enough, not even close. He placed the coins back on the table, covered his face, and for the first time in many years, he cried. The thought crossed his mind. Maybe it was time to quit. Maybe he should give up the shop, find some other job, even if it meant less freedom, less time with his family. Maybe his dream of being independent, of creating something of his own, was just a foolish idea. Maybe he had failed. As the clock ticked past midnight, he whispered to himself, "I can't do this anymore." The next morning, he woke up earlier than usual. He had made a decision. He would go to the shop, pack everything up, and start looking for work elsewhere. He didn't know where or how, but he couldn't let his family suffer because of his pride. He sat quietly at the breakfast table, lost in thought, when Arav walked in, rubbing his eyes. "Good morning, Papa," he said, climbing into his lap like he used to when he was smaller. Ravi held him close, kissed the top of his head, and forced a smile. Arav looked up at him and said, "Are you sad, Papa?" Ravi hesitated. He wanted to say no, but he nodded. Arav was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "It's okay to be sad, but you're my superhero. Superheroes don't quit, right?" Ravi looked at him, surprised. "Where did you hear that?" he asked gently. Arav grinned. "You told me last year when I wanted to stop learning how to ride my bicycle because I kept falling. You said, even superheroes fall down, but they get back up again. That's what makes them strong." Ravi felt his heart ache. The very words he had once spoken to encourage his son had come back to him when he needed them the most. Arav continued, "I don't want you to quit, Papa. I know your shop is small. I know sometimes you come home sad, but I love your shop. It smells like you. It has all those jars of candy and those toys you used to give me when I was good. And when I grow up, I want to help you run it. Can I do that?" Ravi couldn't speak. His eyes filled with tears. He held his son tightly and whispered, "Yes, Beta, you can." In that moment, something changed inside him. Not the situation. He still had bills, the same problems, the same struggles, but something deeper shifted. The weight on his chest didn't feel as heavy. He had found a reason to keep going. A reason that wasn't money or success or pride. A reason that looked up at him every day and called him Papa. He went to the shop that day not to shut it down, but to start again. He cleaned every shelf, rearranged the products, and called old customers to ask if they needed anything. He added new items, simple things people in the neighborhood needed. He offered small discounts. He stayed open longer hours. He also began sharing small stories online, stories of his journey, of failure, of fear, of faith. People began to notice. A few shared his posts. Then more came. A local journalist visited, curious about the man who refused to quit. Soon, more customers returned. Some just to see the man who fought for his dream. Some to buy. Some to talk. Slowly, the shop came back to life. It didn't become a giant store. He didn't become rich overnight, but it was enough. Enough to live, enough to hope, enough to build a future. Years later, when Arav was in college, he wrote an essay titled, "My Father, My Superhero." In it, he wrote, "My father almost gave up, but one day I reminded him of his own words, and he chose to rise. That moment changed both our lives. He taught me that real strength isn't about never falling at S, about standing up when it is hardest to." And Ravi, now older, sometimes sat in the same kitchen, a cup of tea in his hand, thinking back to that morning when his child gave him the strength he didn't know he had. He wanted to quit, but then his child said something simple, something powerful, and that changed everything. Because sometimes the biggest lessons come from the smallest voices, and sometimes a few honest words from someone who believes in you is all you need to keep going.